Good morning, everybody. My name is Amber Hines, and I'm the owner of Ashbur. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their Wednesday morning to join us for a webinar talking about the different factors to take into consideration when planning for a married couple. If you have questions as I go through the slides today, feel free to type those into the questions box of the GoToWebinar dashboard. Also, if you want to follow along, or if you just want a copy of the handouts or the slides, you can find those in the handout portion of the GoToWebinar dashboard as well. So feel free to download those if you choose to. Again, my name is Amber Hines. Some of you may know me as Amber Gwynn. I got married about 3 years ago and my name changed then, but most people know me as Amber Gwynn. I have been working with elder law and estate planning attorneys for the last 15 years to help their clients to qualify for Medicaid using a Medicaid compliant annuity. I do only work with A-rated insurance carriers when issuing Medicaid compliant annuities, so that's something that kind of sets Ashbur apart. And so if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. I am insurance licensed across the country, and I also hold my Series 65 license with FINRA. I created Ashbur to assist advisors and attorneys with pre-planning solutions as well as crisis Medicaid planning solutions. And today we are only going to be talking about crisis planning, specifically Medicaid planning. So when we are implementing crisis planning for clients, the two goals that we have are to basically convert countable assets or resources into non-countable or exempt resources in the most cost-effective, tax-efficient way. We also want to minimize or avoid estate recovery as well. When we look at the income and asset limitations for a married couple, first we're going to go over the income limitations. When we have a married couple where one spouse is remaining in the community or is considered to be the well spouse, they are entitled to unlimited monthly income. So they could have a large pension, they could have a large annuity payment. That is not going to disqualify the institutionalized spouse from being eligible for Medicaid. The institutionalized spouse's income must be less than their cost of care though. And if you do reside in an income cap state, you would need a Miller Trust in the situation where the institutionalized spouse's income exceeds around $2,300 a month. In an income cap state, you would have to set up a qualified income trust or a Miller Trust. But one takeaway from this slide is to know that the community spouse can have unlimited monthly income, which we're going to talk more about because that's something that can be very confusing when we're talking about married couples and differentiating between the monthly maintenance needs allowance and how much income the community spouse is entitled to. On the asset side of things for a married couple, generally the institutionalized spouse is going to be able to keep around $2,000 in resources. This does vary slightly by state, but the most common number is a $2,000 resource limitation. The community spouse or the well spouse is entitled to keep 1/2 of the couple's resources as of the snapshot date, up to a maximum amount of $128,640. Again, this is going to vary by state, and if you have questions about what your state does as far as asset or income limitations, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. Other resources that are going to be protected is the primary residence, an automobile, household goods and personal property, an irrevocable funeral trust or burial policy. And then some states are going to exempt the retirement account or IRAs for the institutionalized spouse and or the community spouse. So that again is something that would be a state specific issue that if you have questions on, feel free to reach out. If your clients have excess resources, the goal would be to develop a Medicaid eligibility plan where we increase or improve non-countable assets. So if there's home improvements that need to be made, if the couple needs a new car, anything that would be considered a non-countable asset, we can make improvements to, or we could just get a new car and sell the old. Another item that the couple can consider doing is purchasing prepaid burial policies. This is not going to be considered a countable asset. They can also pay off credit cards, mortgages, or other debt. And then if all of the items that I've mentioned have been exhausted and there's still money that would be left over, they can consider purchasing a Medicaid compliant annuity that would comply with the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005. When we look at Medicaid planning with annuities, we're always going to be talking about a single premium immediate annuity when we are doing Medicaid planning. So a single premium immediate annuity is a contract that's issued by an insurance company that is used to convert a lump sum of assets into an irrevocable income stream. This is not going to be considered a tax deferred annuity. A tax deferred annuity is a lump sum of cash that acts somewhat like a CD at a local bank where the money is going to continue to grow. So it is a lump sum of assets or asset resource that could be exhausted to pay for care. So there's a cash surrender value that would be associated to a tax deferred annuity, whereas an immediate annuity is simply an income stream. There is no longer the ability to surrender an immediate annuity contract. As a result of the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005, immediate annuities have to meet certain requirements, which we're going to talk about, in order for the annuity to comply with the Medicaid rules. And one thing to point out is that there's hundreds of insurance companies out there that offer immediate annuity contracts, but less than 10 insurance companies across the country offer what's considered to be a Medicaid compliant annuity contract. So a Medicaid compliant annuity contract must contain the 5 items that you are seeing on the screen now. It must be completely irrevocable. This does not mean that just the income stream is irrevocable like you would get with any type of immediate annuity. It has to be completely irrevocable in that the parties can't be changed, the beneficiary can't be changed, no aspect of the annuity can be changed after it's issued. It also must be non-assignable, meaning that we cannot assign the payments or the contract to a company like JG Wentworth or Peachtree, companies that purchase immediate annuity contracts for cash. It would need to have the non-assignable language in it in order for it to be considered Medicaid compliant. Also, the annuity must be actuarially sound. This is one requirement that causes some confusion for people when they hear actuarially sound. They think that the annuity must meet the, or must be equal to the person's Medicaid life expectancy. The actuarially sound requirement means that the annuity must be structured within the person's Medicaid life expectancy, but it can be shorter than their life expectancy. Also, the annuity must make equal payments, so we can no longer have a balloon payment or a large payment at the end. And then in most states, the state must be named as the primary beneficiary on the annuity contract to the extent that they would provide Medicaid benefits to the institutionalized person. There are some exceptions to that where some states will allow for the institutionalized spouse to be named before the state, and there's a couple other nuances there, but if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out. The different types of assets that can be used to purchase a Medicaid compliant annuity, it's really any type of liquid asset, such as checking, savings, CDs at a local bank, brokerage accounts, stocks, bonds, whole life insurance policies, non-qualified annuities, and then IRAs or retirement accounts. If you do have clients that have stocks, bonds, or brokerage accounts, those assets would need to be liquidated to a cash position before we could use those monies to purchase the annuity. So just know that there's not any kind of in-kind transfer that we could do with those types of accounts. But if you have clients that have whole life insurance policies or non-qualified annuities, we can do a 1035 exchange in situations where it makes sense in order to spread out the tax consequences on those types of accounts. First, we're going to go through a case study example of a married couple. So we're going to be looking at a planning scenario where one spouse is in a nursing home and the other spouse is remaining at home in the community. The goals when we're planning for a married couple, we're going to try and obtain Medicaid eligibility without any kind of penalty period for the institutionalized spouse as quickly as possible by converting their excess resources into an income stream. We also want to provide the community spouse with peace of mind as well as sufficient income and resources to be able to maintain his or her lifestyle within the community. So our married couple situation is Roger and Nancy. Roger is 80 years old. He's been diagnosed with dementia. He resides in a nursing home and has monthly income of $2,000 per month. His monthly nursing home bill is $9,000 a month. And Nancy, his spouse, who is residing at home in the community, she is 75 years of age and she has monthly income of $1,000 per month. The couple has a home, car, and $300,000 of non-IRA or non-retirement bank accounts. If the couple does nothing at all, with them spending $9,000 per month on Roger's care, they're going to exhaust their entire life savings, the $300,000, within 33 months. When Roger passes away, Nancy is going to be left with very nominal assets and nominal monthly income. So instead of doing nothing, we're going to obtain Medicaid eligibility for Roger, and we first need to calculate the spend down amount. So Roger, as the institutionalized person, is going to be able to keep his personal property, a prepaid funeral contract, and then $2,000 in most states of the $300,000 in cash assets. Nancy, as the community spouse, is going to be able to keep the primary residence, a car, a prepaid funeral policy, her personal property, and then $128,640 of the $300,000 of cash assets. So if we subtract $130,640 from $300,000 that they have, we determine that their spend down amount is $169,360. So this is the amount that they are going to be over-resourced, and they need to get rid of those assets before we can qualify Roger for Medicaid. So we can eliminate the excess resources, the $169,360, by purchasing a Medicaid compliant annuity for Nancy. In this case, Nancy is going to be the annuity owner, the annuitant, and the payee of the annuity contract. With Nancy being 75 years of age, her Medicaid life expectancy is 12.92 years or 155 months. So since this annuity is going to be based on Nancy's life expectancy and she is the annuity owner, 155 months is going to be the longest annuity term that we could purchase for her. And if we spread out the spend down amount, or the $169,360, over 155 months with a Medicaid compliant annuity, the monthly payout on the contract is going to be $1,120 per month. You'll notice that the total payout is going to be $173,600. That's slightly more than the single premium that was used to purchase the annuity, and that's just representing a small amount of interest that the insurance company is going to pay to Nancy as the annuity owner over the life of the annuity policy. The parties to a community spouse annuity, Nancy is going to be the annuity owner, the annuitant, or the measuring life of the annuity policy. She's also going to be the payee of the Medicaid compliant annuity. The primary beneficiary is going to be the state Medicaid agency to the extent that they provide Medicaid benefits on behalf of Roger. And then the contingent or the secondary beneficiaries are going to be children, family members, a trust, charity, or whoever the community spouse chooses to name as a secondary beneficiary after the state. Some people get confused and they wonder why Nancy would be the spouse that would be purchasing the annuity instead of Roger if he is the one that would be needing Medicaid and these were joint assets. So in almost all states except for Illinois and New York, the community spouse can have unlimited monthly income without having to contribute any of their own income towards the institutionalized spouse's cost of care. So that's why it makes sense in most situations to have the community spouse purchase the annuity versus the person in the nursing home, because if the person in the nursing home is the one that purchases the annuity and the annuity income is considered to belong to the institutionalized person, then that income is going to go towards the institutionalized person's cost of care unless we can shift the income over under the monthly maintenance needs allowance calculation, which we'll talk more about as well. So we want to, in most cases, have the community spouse own the annuity because it maximizes the amount of income that the couple gets to keep, especially the community spouse. If we look at the income calculations after the Medicaid compliant annuity is purchased, Nancy had monthly income of $1,000 per month, plus the annuity income is going to take her total monthly income to $2,120 per month. If we assume that Nancy's monthly maintenance needs allowance is going to be $3,216, we subtract her monthly income of the $2,120 and determine that Nancy has a monthly income shortfall of $1,096 per month. Because Nancy does not have enough of her own monthly income to meet the monthly maintenance needs allowance, she's going to receive part of Roger's monthly income to bring her up to the $3,216. So then we determine what Roger's copay is going to be to the facility by taking his Social Security income at $2,000 and subtracting out the $1,096 that he is going to shift over to Nancy because she was short on her side of the equation. And then we also subtract out Roger's monthly personal needs allowance, which allows him to get haircuts and buy things that Medicaid would not normally pay for. So Roger's patient liability or his copay to the facility is going to be $854 each month. The economic results of doing the 155-month Medicaid compliant annuity is that the couple was expected to pay $9,000 per month for Roger's care. We were able to reduce the copay amount down to $854 per month. So the couple experienced a monthly savings of $81.46 per month by qualifying Roger for Medicaid. The advantages of the Medicaid compliant annuity plan is that we were able to obtain immediate Medicaid eligibility for Roger without any kind of penalty period or private pay period. We also created sufficient monthly income for Nancy through the use of the Medicaid compliant annuities so that she could continue living in the community. A potential disadvantage of the annuity is that with the state Medicaid agency being the primary beneficiary, if Nancy passes away during the 155-month term, the state Medicaid agency is going to be entitled to the amount that they provided on behalf of Roger as the primary beneficiary. In order to reduce the likelihood that Nancy is going to predecease the term and that the state would have a right to recover, we could shorten the annuity term to something less than the full life expectancy at 155 months. The impact of on the Medicaid compliant annuity when each spouse passes away. Roger, as the institutionalized spouse passing, is not going to have a direct impact on the annuity policy. If you recall, Roger was not named as the annuitant, the payee, or the annuity owner. So the beneficiary designation, the state Medicaid agency, is only going to be triggered when Nancy, the community spouse, passes away, because she is the annuity owner and she's also the annuitant. So when Roger passes away, nothing is going to happen with the annuity contract. It's only when Nancy passes that the state would have a right to recover in that scenario. The timing or the steps to secure Medicaid eligibility through using a Medicaid compliant annuity. Generally, we want one spouse to enter the facility first so that a snapshot date is established. A Medicaid compliant annuity is not going to be a pre-planning tool. It's a crisis planning tool that would be used after one spouse enters a facility. After one spouse enters the facility and the snapshot date has been established, we can determine what the spend down amount is, or the amount of excess resources. The Medicaid compliant annuity can then be purchased with the spend down amount. And after the annuity is purchased, the Medicaid application would be completed and submitted on behalf of those clients. So now that we've gone through a basic example of using an annuity in a married couple situation, we're going to break down the different factors that we take into consideration when determining how long to structure the Medicaid compliant annuity term. So the first one is going to be the client's ages, their health, spend down amount, their income needs, and then whether we're using pre-tax or IRA dollars or post-tax dollars to purchase the annuity. So first, we're going to talk about the age of the clients. If we consider, instead of Nancy being 75 years of age, she is now 95 years of age and she is still the community spouse, how is that going to affect what term we would consider using for the annuity? As the Medicaid compliant annuity owner gets older, their life expectancy is going to decrease. So at age 75, like we just talked about, Nancy's Medicaid life expectancy was 155 months. Whereas if we compare that to a 95-year-old female, her life expectancy is now only 3.31 years, or 39 months. Excuse me. So as we shorten the Medicaid compliant annuity term, the Medicaid compliant annuity payments are going to increase. We're expediting the speed at which the money is going to be returned to the annuity owner. If we look at using the 39 months for the annuity contract in this case, because Nancy is now 95 years of age, we structured the $169,360 over 39 months, and we see that the monthly payment on the annuity is going to be around $4,400 each month, compared to, in the last example, the annuity payment was only around $1,100 per month. So we're seeing here that as we shorten the term, the payments are going to increase, and again, the total payout is going to be slightly greater than the amount that is put into the annuity contract. This is going to affect the income calculations if we shorten the annuity term. So Nancy, in this case, is going to still have her Social Security income at $1,000 per month. She has the Medicaid compliant annuity payment now at $4,370 per month. So her total income in this case is $5,370. In the lower left-hand corner, you're seeing that now Nancy's income at $5,370 is exceeding what her monthly maintenance needs allowance is. So she no longer has a shortfall that would be collected from Roger's income on a monthly basis. So Roger's income, or his copay, is going to equal the full $2,000 that he has less his $50 personal needs allowance. So his copay is now going to increase to $19.50 per month. Because Nancy's income is exceeding the monthly maintenance needs allowance, she's not going to receive any of Roger's monthly income. So Roger's copay to the facility is going to increase, as we're seeing here. The economic results of the 39-month Medicaid compliant annuity is that the couple was expected to pay $9,000 per month. We were able to reduce the copay down to $19.50 per month. So in this case, they experienced a monthly savings of $7,050 each month, instead of, in the last example, it was slightly more than that because there was a shifting of income over to Nancy. What about Roger's age? Well, we talked about the fact that the Medicaid applicant's age or longevity doesn't directly impact the Medicaid compliant annuity term, but it is still something that I consider because like we talked about, since the Medicaid compliant annuity beneficiary designation is only going to be triggered when Nancy passes away, if we set up a plan for a married couple and we go back to the first scenario where we had a 155-month annuity and Roger passes away shortly after purchasing that annuity, the annuity is just going to continue paying out. So if Roger passes away shortly after and then Nancy is kind of stuck with this $1,100 a month payment, that may not be sufficient income for her to live on for the rest of the annuity term. So while Roger's age is not going to directly impact the Medicaid compliant annuity term because it's not his life expectancy that we base it on, it is something that I would consider because we don't want to stick the community spouse with a unreasonably low payment from the Medicaid compliant annuity that she wouldn't be able to live on if the institutionalized spouse passes shortly after. We also look at the community spouse's health in addition to their age. So as a result of Nancy's poor health, she's worried that she's not going to survive the 155-month annuity term, resulting in the state being able to recover. So in this case, she wants to reduce the term to a 48-month time frame. With the state being the primary beneficiary of the annuity, if the community spouse is in questionable health, we likely will want to shorten the annuity term to a time frame that we're fairly confident that the community spouse is going to outlive. So in this case, we're going to reduce the term down to a 48-month time frame. The $169,360 is going to be structured now over the 48-month time frame, making the payment from the annuity $3,550 per month. In this case, Nancy's income again is going to exceed her monthly maintenance needs allowance, which is telling us that she is not going to receive any of Roger's monthly income. So their copay is going to remain at $19.50 each month that Roger is going to pay to the facility. The economic results of the 48-month time frame is going to be exactly the same as the 39-month annuity term because Nancy is not going to receive any of Roger's monthly income in this case. So their savings on a monthly basis is $7,050 a month. If we assume that Nancy passes away 60 months after the 48-month annuity is purchased, what is going to happen to the Medicaid compliant annuity? Absolutely nothing. So with the annuity being structured over 4 years, if Nancy survives the 4-year term and passes away in year 5, the annuity is done paying out in that scenario. So the state would not have a right to recover in that case because Nancy outlived the annuity term. So the annuity is going to be set up that it would start paying out immediately. And if the person passes away after the term is all paid up, then the state no longer has a right to recover in that scenario. If we assume, though, that Nancy passes away 12 months into the 48-month annuity term, then we're looking at the fact that Nancy is the annuity owner and she's the annuitant. So we would immediately contact the insurance company who issued the Medicaid compliant annuity and explain to them that Nancy has passed away. And with the state Medicaid agency likely being the primary beneficiary of the annuity, the state would have a right to recover against the annuity policy for 12 months worth of payments. They would have a right to recover at the Medicaid reimbursement rate, which, depending on what state you reside in, the Medicaid reimbursement rate can be significantly lower than what the private pay rate is. So that's something to consider, that even if the community spouse or the annuitant passes away during this time frame, the state is only going to have a right to recover at the reimbursement rate, and then anything that's remaining in the contract is going to go to the secondary beneficiaries. In this case, the remaining annuity amount would be around $66,160 that would be paid to the couple's children as the contingent or secondary beneficiaries. And the children at that time would have a right to choose to continue the remaining 3 years of payments, or they could elect a lump sum of cash instead of having to wait 3 more years to collect all of the payments. We determined that the children would receive $66,160 by taking the original amount that was put into the annuity contract at $169,360. I then subtracted out 12 months of the annuity payments and also the amount that the state would have a right to recover against at $60,600, subtracted those two numbers and arrived at the $66,160. This amount is going to be greater than if the family would have just privately paid for Roger's care at $9,000 per month for 12 months. There's a greater wealth transfer that has taken place in this scenario by doing the annuity, because the state only has a right to recover at the reimbursement rate versus paying privately for 12 months. One more item to take into consideration regarding the community spouse's health. There are, in most states, once you get the institutionalized spouse eligible for Medicaid, the community spouse can do whatever they want to with the annuity payments, whether it be gifting those payments into a trust or making wealth transfers to hopefully protect themselves against a Medicaid situation 5 years down the road. So if you're looking to expedite the annuity payments back to the community spouse so that the community spouse can do their own planning, whether it be transferring assets into an irrevocable Medicaid trust, or even looking at doing a long-term care policy for the community spouse, we would look at those opportunities to get the payments back to the community spouse quicker so that they have more flexibility in doing their own long-term care insurance or planning for themselves. We also look at the spend down amount that we are looking at converting into a Medicaid compliant annuity. So if we, instead of having a spend down amount of $169,360, Roger and Nancy have a spend down amount of $500,000 or $500,000. As the spend down amount increases, you can imagine that the payment amount is also going to increase. So with very large spend down amounts, we may want to consider stretching the annuity term over a longer period of time. With $500,000 being used to purchase an annuity, if we paid that out within a 12-month period, the annuity payment is going to be nearly $42,000 per month. So that's a pretty hefty amount of income to be paying back to the community spouse within a 12-month time frame. If we look at using the 39-month term like we previously did, and we had a $500,000 spend down amount, the monthly payments are going to be $12,850 per month. And then finally, using the full life expectancy of Nancy at 75 years of age, her monthly payment on the annuity would be around $3,300 if we had $500,000 that was going into the annuity policy. This slide here is just showing you the difference in the different payment amounts. The total payout is going to increase as the insurance company holds on to the money for a longer period of time and is able to reinvest that money. So while a 12-month annuity is technically going to be considered actuarially sound because it's paying out within Nancy's life expectancy, it could be viewed as abusive as far as the amount of income that is being created by using the annuity to convert $500,000. So while determining the time frame of the annuity, there's a lot of different factors to take into consideration. But as a general guideline, I usually look at the amount that it would cost if the community spouse needed care herself, and I look at the geographic area that I'm working in. So if the cost of care is $15,000 a month because I'm helping somebody in Pennsylvania, then I would feel confident with doing a $15,000 a month payment. Whereas if I'm helping somebody in Texas where the cost of care is only $4,500 a month, I would not necessarily recommend a $15,000 annuity payment. So I think that you can justify doing a payment based on how much it would cost if the community spouse got sick and they needed to pay for their own care. But I would take into consideration what area of the country that you are practicing in when determining what's considered to be a reasonable amount of income that you're creating by using the annuity contract. Another item that we take into consideration is the income of the clients, which we have kind of touched on already. The monthly maintenance needs allowance is the minimum amount of income that the community spouse is entitled to. This should not be confused with an income cap. As we talked about, the community spouse can have unlimited monthly income. And if the community spouse's income is not sufficient to meet his or her MIMNA, then they're going to receive a portion of the institutionalized spouse's income. But if the community spouse does already have enough income to meet or exceed the MIMNA amount, then they're not going to receive any of the institutionalized spouse's income in that scenario. So this slide is just kind of reiterating, if the community spouse's income is greater than the MIMNA, then they're not going to receive any of the institutionalized spouse's income. But if the community spouse's income is less than the MIMNA, then they're going to receive a portion of the institutionalized person's income to bring them up to the minimum amount of income that Medicaid considers to be acceptable as far as the minimum that the community spouse can have. Here we're seeing the 155-month Medicaid compliant annuity example where we are receiving a shifting of income from Roger over to Nancy. This was the example where after adding the annuity payment to Nancy's Social Security income, we determined that her total income at $2,120 was not sufficient to meet her monthly maintenance needs allowance at $3,216. So Nancy is going to receive $1,096 of Roger's income before we determine what his copay to the facility would be. Another example where income is not being shifted is using the 48-month annuity example. In this case, the annuity payment was $3,500. And when we add that to Nancy's Social Security income at $1,000 per month, her total income at $4,550 exceeds her MIMNA at $3,216. So in this case, we're not going to receive any of Roger's income being shifted over to Nancy because she already has sufficient income to meet her needs. So in summary, if we're looking at shifting income from the institutionalized spouse over to the community spouse, we should consider the spend down amount, the life expectancy of the community spouse as far as what the actuary life tables tell us that the term can be, and then how much income we are trying to shift over to the community spouse from the institutionalized person. But if we have a scenario where the community spouse, their income already exceeds the MIMNA and there's not going to be any shifting of income from the institutionalized spouse over to the community spouse, then we may want to consider shortening the annuity term to something less than the full life expectancy, because there isn't going to be any shifting of income from the institutionalized spouse to the community spouse. There are a lot of states that will redetermine the amount of income that can be shifted from the institutionalized spouse to the community spouse. So if, for example, you do an annuity term based on a 2-year time frame, and during that time frame the community spouse doesn't receive any of the institutionalized person's income because they already have enough income of their own, then after that annuity is done paying out, many states will go back and will shift income from the institutionalized spouse to the community spouse after that annuity is done paying out, if the community spouse does not have enough income to meet the MIMNA requirements. So that's something to keep in mind as well. The last item that we're going to consider when purchasing the annuity is whether or the type of funds that are being used to purchase the annuity. So there's 2 different types of funds that can be used to purchase a Medicaid compliant annuity contract. We can either purchase the annuity with pre-tax or IRA funds, retirement funds. If the annuity is being purchased with IRA dollars, these monies have never been taxed before, so the entire annuity payment is going to be considered taxable income as the annuity owner receives the payments. Whereas if we look at a non-qualified annuity, this is going to be an annuity that's purchased with after-tax dollars. So this is money that has already been taxed and it's been sitting in checking, savings, or any other type of account that has already been taxed. If the Medicaid compliant annuity is purchased with non-qualified funds, only the interest on the annuity is going to be considered taxable income. The return of principal is not going to be taxable. The interest, as you can see on most of these examples, when you're comparing the total payout and the single premium, there's not a whole lot of difference as far as the interest that would be paid. So the interest is going to be nominal, which means that the tax consequences are also going to be nominal in situations where we're using after-tax dollars to purchase the annuity. This is an example of using an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity versus a non-qualified MCA, and just the difference in how the money is going to be taxed. So if we use $150,000 that was taken from a client's existing IRA and we roll that over into an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity over a 60-month time frame, the annuity is going to create monthly income of $2,550 per month, which means that the total payout is $153,000. The entire annuity payment, the $2,550, is going to be considered taxable income over the 60-month time frame that the annuity pays out. because the $150,000 was never taxed and it was pre-tax dollars that was used to purchase the annuity. Whereas if we look at a non-qualified annuity where we use $150,000 to purchase this annuity over a 5-year period or 60 months, the annuity payment is going to remain the same at $2,550. The total payout is the same at $153,000. But in this scenario, the difference between the single premium of $150,000 and $153,000 is the amount that's going to be considered taxable income over a 60-month period. So if you look at a $3,000 amount that's going to be taxable over 60 months, is a pretty nominal amount of taxable income to the client. The $150,000 is not going to be taxable because that's the after-tax amount that was used to purchase the annuity initially. So not all states for Medicaid planning purposes are going to consider the community spouse's IRA to be a countable asset. It may already be protected without having to do any planning at all. But if you do reside in a state that considers the community spouse's retirement plan to be countable, we can help convert that from a countable asset into an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity so that it's no longer considered a resource. This slide here is showing you all of the states that consider the community spouse's IRA to be countable versus the states that consider the community spouse's retirement account to be exempt. So all the states that are in blue count the community spouse's IRA, and the states that are in orange are going to say that the community spouse's IRA is exempt, either completely exempt or exempt if the community spouse is receiving their required minimum distribution or systematic payments out of the annuity policy, or out of the IRA, excuse me. If you do reside in a state that counts the community spouse's retirement account as a countable asset, there's two options. The community spouse can either keep the qualified account as part of their community spouse resource allowance. So if it's an account that is valued at less than $128,640, then they could just keep that as part of their CESRA amount and not do any additional planning with it. Or if it's an account that would exceed that amount, then we can look at converting the community spouse's qualified account into an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity. We would fund the IRA Medicaid compliant annuity by using either a custodian to custodian transfer or a 60-day rollover. Both of these methods are going to be acceptable to fund the IRA MCA. So it's really just a matter of timing as far as which option is chosen, but we can use either one of these methods to fund the Medicaid compliant annuity. If we assume, going back to Nancy and Roger's situation, that the $169,360 was comprised of Nancy's IRA, and we're going to convert that into an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity. Again, Nancy is going to be the owner, annuitant, and the payee. The monthly payment is not going to change at all. It's still $1,120 per month. But as Nancy receives the payments back from the IRA MCA, the full $1,120 each month is going to be considered taxable income to her because that money has never been taxed. So if we are using an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity, we usually see the annuity is stretched out over a longer period of time in order to spread out the tax consequences over multiple tax years. So it's not going to make a whole lot of sense in a scenario where we have $150,000 if we use IRA money to fund that and we pay out the annuity within a 3-month time frame. Let's just use this month, for example. If I have a client that purchases the annuity in July and they start receiving payments in August, they're going to receive a payment in August, September, and October. So they're going to receive all of that taxable income in one tax year. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when we're using IRA money to do a very short time frame annuity, because there is going to be a 1099 that is sent out for each of those $50,000 annuity payments. And so when we are using qualified or IRA money to purchase the annuity, we usually are trying to spread that out over multiple tax years in order to spread out the tax consequences associated to the IRA MCA. So this again is just saying that spreading out the tax consequences of the IRA MCA is usually done by purchasing a longer term annuity than we would consider doing with a non-IRA MCA, because as we talked about with the non-IRA MCA, the annuity, only the interest is going to be considered taxable income in that case. So in summary, shortening the annuity term is going to obviously increase the monthly annuity payment that is received under the annuity contract. It's going to decrease the likelihood that the income is going to be shifted from the institutionalized spouse over to the community spouse under the MIMNA rules. It does also decrease the likelihood that the state has the right to recover against the annuity contract, because if the community spouse outlives the annuity policy, then the state no longer has the right to recover on that annuity policy. It also is going to expedite the tax consequences that are paid on a pre-tax or IRA MCA annuity. So that is something to consider when shortening the term of an IRA MCA. As I mentioned earlier, we only work with A-rated insurance carriers for our Medicaid compliant annuities. We also offer complimentary case analysis to help you determine the optimal annuity amount, the term, and which assets we could consider using to be annuitized, whether it's IRA or non-IRA assets. I have been working with attorneys for the last 15 years to help with securing Medicaid eligibility for their clients, and I would be delighted if you are interested in working with me, or if you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out and ask any questions through email or phone. You are now seeing contact information on this slide here if you want to reach out either by phone or email. And it looks like I have several questions here. Okay, so I'm actually not going to hold everybody up here because a lot of the questions that are being asked are state specific questions. So I will reach out to individual attorneys to answer their questions that are being asked on here. But I want to thank everybody for their time today, for tuning in. I hope everyone is staying cool. I know down in Georgia, it's over 100 degrees with the heat index down here. So thank you all for being with us. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And in the meantime, I will follow up with you regarding your questions. And don't forget to join us next month for another webinar. And I hope all of you stay well and healthy. Thank you. Bye-bye.